the unexpected.
And the Kentucky coronation is complete.
That's a man's jam.
Against double order for the championship.
Do you believe it? The flipper still fits.
Climb, step back, three for the tie.
The madness is real.
Ron Hunter has fallen off his stool.
Thank you for being my friend.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 2 of the D1 and Done pod, currently presented by no one. We hope that will change at some point. We're obviously open to sponsorship. Please drop the bag for all of us here at the D1 and Done pod. I'm Robbie Donahoe. To my left is Dusty Mills, and to my right is Nick Mills. We have a new, staging area, new studio control today. We are at the wonderful abode of Dusty and one of the first ladies of the pod, Haley. This is their little loft area, so a really, really nice setup. We want to shout out Haley. She did a great job at putting kind of this setup, the tables and everything together. So thank you for putting all this on. Please make sure you give us a follow on our social media platforms, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us at D1 and Done Pod. You can also email us. It is the letter D and the number 1 and donepod@gmail.com. Make sure you leave us a like on Facebook. Give us 5 stars on Spotify or wherever you may get your podcasts. Fellas, an interesting week, to say the least, of college basketball.
A lot's happened since we've last podcasted,
That
Robbie.
it has.
We have a lot to talk about. A lot good for you, though, Robbie. The Purdue looks really good.
Can't complain. It's been a good week. Dusty, the sins of your lives have not been atoned. You had a rough week.
It's been a tough week. Actually, my only win for the weekend, I feel like, because I went to Brownsburg this weekend to see Robbie.
You did? I may or may not teach and work there. I can neither confirm or deny that.
You don't.
And watched the Noblesville Millers come back from 16 down to beat Brownsburg. Besides that, my weekend for sports was not as enjoyable as I wanted. I did get to see one of my best friends get married last night, so I was catching up on all the college basketball action today.
Thank you. This is the college basketball podcast.
Yeah, and I just found out about an hour ago that Kentucky actually had a lead against Gonzaga yesterday in the second half. I watched the first half on my phone, did not see any of the second half.
Completely unbeknownst to you, even though you're a Kentucky fan. So yes.
Well, I had obligations. Nick, though, as he's about to cause a riot, is going to give us a good update on what the hell happened in Kentucky.
Nick had his boots on the ground for that one. We'll catch up with Nick here in a little bit on his trip to Kentucky. The per diem, by the way, I need it back. Since Kentucky lost, you have to pay the per diem.
Yeah, get
back.
that expense report by Tuesday, please.
Correct.
It's in the mail. I'll send it to you when I get the chance. The other thing, though, in basketball...
By the way, the address is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's Washington, D.C.
I'm quite familiar.
Okay, good.
My Uncle Joe lives there.
That's our political talk. Anyway.
Before we go on, we got to address the elephant in the room, I feel like.
Yeah? What's that?
We all picked bets last week, our favorite bets.
Wait, I wasn't going to talk about that yet.
I want to address it. I want to rip off.
Please, go right ahead.
I prepared an apology.
Wow.
If you don't mind.
Okay, so this is the apology.
I want to set the standard.
I appreciate. Hey, accountability is important these days, so I appreciate that.
And for our radio audience, he is whipping out his cell phone. He does have an actual written out apology.
Okay.
Here we go.
The floor is yours, Nick.
I would like to apologize for New Mexico. If I've hurt anyone out there, I can't tell you how much I say. From the bottom of my heart, I am very, very sorry. I pride myself and think myself as a man of faith. As there's a Jeep...
Butchered it! You can't even do it correctly!
I'm sorry, I was laughing. I was not saying
Oh my gosh!
Sorry, there's a deep fly ball left field. That's a home run. 4-0 Reds.
Are you going to put on this headset again?
I may never put on his headset again after this. My greatest claim to fame is watching it live.
That is a great claim to fame.
It's the best thing ever.
That's fantastic.
So I just want to apologize. Sorry again. They lost New Mexico.
Correct. They did. The Lobos, which, by the way, I was talking to some friends about this before the show. That was the one pick that I thought was a lock. Like, I felt really good about
that's why
the
we
three
called
that
them
we
locks.
had. So that's why we call them locks. But don't worry. Nick ran a couple Millers before we did this pod as well to atone for his sins, and we continue to move on. So we'll talk about those locks later on in the show. But if you are listening in for the first time, welcome. This is the D1 and Done pod. If you don't know where the name came from, it is because Dusty, our good pal to my left here, actually walked on to 2 Division I men's college basketball programs, played in one, didn't play in the other because Ball State just had no idea what they had at their fingertips and couldn't use it to their advantage. So he is the D1 part, and then Nick and I are by far the done part.
Well, Dusty was also the first ever Kentucky one and done, as he makes a
Set
joke.
the standard.
He was there for one. He's played one season there.
That should be
the original
Calipari's
one and
record.
No
done.
way.
As he sips his tea over there.
I'm genuinely shocked that you just said that, and it just occurred to me. Yes, wow.
Yeah, I think our other brother pointed out a couple years ago, oh yeah, he is the original one and done. It's impressive, Krabb.
Just not making as much now as the rest of them.
Right. We glossed over the fact that the day you signed your transfer papers was the day JOHN CALIPARI came in
Day
to
after,
coach it.
day after.
But
Yes.
still, regardless, you basically are the reason why JOHN
I
CALIPARI is
would
at
have been
Kentucky.
hands and knees and just in his office, just say, "Hey, John, just don't even put me on the
I will
roster
do
this year.
anything
I
for
will
you."
just give me a year to prove myself in practice." And if that would have happened, they would have won the national title my senior year.
Oh my gosh.
Is that
Meaning
essentially
they did win it in 2012, and that if they
They
redshirted
did.
me,
The Kentucky
would have been,
coronation
yeah.
is complete.
Didn't you essentially do that at Ball State and they still give you the middle finger?
Yes, but that shows the difference between
Yeah.
Kentucky and Ball State.
Chirp, chirp.
There is a sizable difference between those fine institutions, I believe. But anyway, so that's where the name came from. We had over 100 people download our first episode. So if you were one of those 100 people, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts from listening to this pod.
Sincerely. Thank you.
Sincerely and legitimately. We put a lot of effort and time into this, and we hope you enjoyed episode 1, and we'll enjoy episode 2 just as much. All right, let's get to our said and done storylines from
The
the week.
sequels are always better, Robbie.
Absolutely.
They're always better.
But, we have a work cut out for us for the trilogy in episode 3. So we kind of set the stage for episode 3, which will then finish out the great run that we had. We don't plan on stopping at episode 3, by the way.
We're like Fast and Furious. We're just keep going.
We're just going to keep going. And Christopher Nolan loves us. I don't know if you saw that. Christopher Nolan loves the Fast and Furious movies.
No kidding?
Yes,
I
he
love
does.
that.
He did an interview with Stephen Colbert about it, and I love the Fast and Furious movies. It's amazing. All right, said and done storylines. I want to start with Nick. Go ahead. Let's get on our big couch here. Let's put your head back, lay on the pillow, look up at the ceiling and the sky. I don't know why I do this anymore to myself. That kind of stuff.
So I want to start with this. Okay, it's our second episode, so I don't it's weird that we're going to talk about the Calipari.
Calipari. By the way, shout out to my good friend TJ Wary, who is a Memphis grad, who confirmed it is Calipari.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so thank you, TJ, for that pronunciation.
But the reason I preface this by saying that is okay, I don't want because second episode I'm basically going to say I kind of want Cal fired, and I've been
Which we kind of jumped into this last week, yeah.
So he's been a coach since 2010. I'm big on this. This is my theory. Once you say you want to fire a coach, there's no going back. Okay, that's why I've always been hesitant.
sure.
I hate when people say fire him. Oh, then I love him. So once you make that declaration, to me you can't go back. Okay, and
I appreciate that, by the way.
I think that's crucial. You can't. It's a major thing. Like ADs, you can't rehire someone you fire them.
By the
right?
way, should I press the hot take button for you to want to fire
Hit it,
Calipari?
hit it,
Is
hit
that
it.
hot?
Okay,
Is that hottish? That's a little hottish. That's a hot take right there.
See,
So
that's
lifetime contract, no more.
See, that's okay. I'm not sure if I want to fire him, but I'm about at my breaking point.
Okay.
Okay, because it's not you're not getting unlucky. It's not someone scoring 50 on you. It's
At some point,
the lack
you
of
are what your record and numbers
for
say you
people
are.
who didn't watch yesterday, they played Gonzaga. Gonzaga ran a pick and roll every single possession in the second half.
Which is what Tennessee did.
It's what you could do to them. You pick and roll them to death.
You get a point guard in the paint.
And what my thing is what drives me, there's no in-game adjustments. There's nothing at all. It's the same. What's the definition of insanity? Do the same thing.
Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Yep.
We don't try zone. We don't switch how we guard the pick and roll. The substitution patterns makes no sense. It's, again, in this whole thing, we're now, was it 2024? It's his 14th year there. We've won one tournament game since 2019.
I remember you saying that last week. I could not believe
It's
that.
insane. And by the way, there's no excuses lack of talent. They have lottery picks or potential lottery picks on his team. I don't want to fight. It's just it's the same crap over and same thing, different year. No adjustments. They've lost 3 straight at home to Rupp for the first time ever.
No. Yeah, first time at Rupp.
I
I
cannot
have the
believe
year
that.
I'm going to give in a little bit. Last time they lost 3 straight home games. So we'll get to that.
Okay, so also, Kentucky has, I would arguably say the best college to NBA program in basketball.
Easily.
They have 7 NBA All-Stars
I was about to mention that.
this year.
7 NBA All-Stars in the game coming up here in Indianapolis, which is insane.
And that includes a ton of other Kentucky guys that are really good that won't make the All-Star
Right,
team. So
yeah.
they're like a guy like, I don't know, Tyler Hero's a good example.
Tyler
He's
Hero's a
playing right
great
now. So,
player,
like,
yes. But
and again, I get, like, I'm not saying you have to win a national championship every year, but, like, it just seems like it's the same thing over and over again. Like, Mark Few put him in body bag yesterday. Bill Self put him in body bag. Like, he just gets out-coached every game, and the negatives feel like they're outweighing the positives. Again, I'm not saying fire him, but I am about as close as I've ever been with Calipari.
What I just cannot get my head around is what you said mentioned. There are no in-game adjustments. They go into the game thinking what they can do, and they just stick with that. They don't change at all with what they're doing, which that's the opposite of what you should be as a coach. You have to evolve with how the game is being played. And it's just like
offense,
they don't do that.
There's no plays. There's no movement. It's roll the ball out and let's figure it out. Which again, their offense is not the issue this year, but still.
By the way, it shocked me that Kentucky, are they the third best three-point shooting team in the country, or the second best, or maybe the best?
They're definitely up there.
They're in the top three, which I could not believe because I don't think they're that great of a three-point shooting team outside of, Shepard is good, Dillingham is good, and Austin Reeves is good.
Yeah, by himself, they probably just raised the average so high.
By the way, it's Antonio Reeves, not Austin Reeves. I can't believe I just said Austin Reeves, Antonio Reeves. His first name's Antonio, right?
Antonio,
okay,
yeah.
I called him Austin. Sorry, I'm thinking about Austin Reeves and the Lakers, but anyway.
And again, just like I said, like if you want to watch, Gonzaga ran the same play,
same stuff,
the whole second half. And again, so it was we got an and one, make it 57-51, 12 and a half minutes to play. Okay, 12 and a half minutes to go. Robbie, is our sound doing okay over there?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay, you want to guess how many stops they got the rest of the game?
This is an amazing stat.
I was going to say like 2,
4, and 4 of them were turnovers. And then Gonzaga had 34 misses yesterday.
Turnovers,
yeah.
from what I read.
I
34 missed shots yesterday for Gonzaga, 18 offensive rebounds.
Gonzaga just played harder.
They
like it's
honestly. Is that not what I was saying last week? Is there issues? They do not play hard.
I think it comes down to effort because like the rebounding, Gonzaga is not a big team by any means, and they're not a great offensive rebounding team, but they punked Kentucky's bigs on the boards.
So we have 3 7-footers. That's 21 feet for you math majors out there. They got 15 points and 7 rebounds. I have 21 feet of people yesterday. And like Robbie said, it's like it's like Karl Malone's playing for Gonzaga over there.
No.
Like it's
or Dennis Rodman or Charles Barkley or any of the best rebounders that we've ever seen. Yeah,
I guess I would push back a little bit on the effort thing. I think they just look lost. I don't like. Well, if you don't know what you're doing,
and that's where it goes to leadership and coaching.
Right.
So are they mentally? By the way, you're hearing wonderful puppies over our sound system. That is Disney and Milo.
And it's Milo's birthday.
Milo's birthday.
And Disney's birthday was on Friday.
So all the birthdays are coming in. Rizzo's birthday's in April.
Disney's the one from the Instagram photo for people who saw that.
Correct.
Dog
yes,
behind me.
the side-eye photo.
Point being, though, we're letting them party hard today for the Super Bowl. So if you hear them bark, we apologize.
Yes. So going back to, are they mentally weak? Is that what it is?
Like mentally, I think guys like shoving each other and like whining. They just look. It's like they want to succeed. They just don't. I think it's just on coaching and just.
They seem disinterested at times. They just it's like, okay, this is all right. We're here for the game. This is nice. This is fun. Okay, when we get down, But when they came back in the second half, I was like, okay, maybe they're finally starting to put it together. And then they reverted to the mean, and it was. They were just an average team again.
Again, so I blame the coach. Again, it's not Gonzaga was hitting fadeaway jumpers on them. They were hitting shots in the paint the whole second half. They were getting a lot of open looks, too, on the outside. And by the way, that's Gonzaga's only quad one win. I know. I'm well aware. Yeah,
I'm sure
they're not a good team, by the way.
I would not say – no, I would not call them good. I think they're an above-average team.
Yeah.
When Purdue played them in Maui, they actually played pretty well against us.
They did.
But ever since then, they haven't been very good. So
they're well coached, which is
because Mark Few is a very good basketball coach. I want to go back to that 3-game losing streak at Rupp. That is insane that they had never lost 3 straight games at home ever.
No, they have at home. First time in Rupp.
So how long has Rupp Arena been standing?
Actually, a great question.
Well, from the stat I know, it would be before or after the year I'm going to give you. So last time the last 3 at home was December of 1966.
Okay, I was gonna guess the 60s. So regardless,
my dad was 6 years old and he's looking at retirement right now. So that gives you a little idea of.
So in 60 years, they hadn't lost 3 straight games at Rupp.
It opened November of '76.
Okay, 76. Okay, so 50 years. It's been 50 years since they've lost 3 straight home
And mind
games.
you, we had a team go 9-16 4 years ago, and they didn't lose 3 in a row at home.
Yeah.
And there's like 10% crowds during the COVID during that.
I when that was said, I was like, there's no possible way. Like,
And
that's incredible.
The one last note, again, by the way, I want to make this point. I'm not giving up on them. My point is, I have no confidence game to game. No idea what to expect game to game.
I will end it with this, and I know it feels like we're becoming a Kentucky pod, but I think they're the big point.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the big news story because I said it last week, and I still believe this. They have the highest ceiling of anyone in the country still, but the highest ceiling team that also has the lowest floor, and they are showing us how low that floor can be now.
When you cannot guard anyone, Robbie. And just last note, this is what Tubby Smith got fired for before he went out, by the way. His last 5 years, he went 32-4, 27-5, 28-6, 22-13, 22-12. Fired.
Slowly but surely.
I'm just saying it's
on his way out.
I'm saying Tubby got fired for the same reason. So
Dusty, I'm going to give you the last call on this then.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. Seeing that final last night did not put me in a good mood. I'll just say that. Calipari gets the players. I am finally starting to really doubt the coaching. I would tell that to him to his face. Like, I do not understand the lack of in-game adjustments. I don't get, like you were talking about Mark Few. If you're the opposing coach, you're looking at this, and it's what Tennessee did. Like I said, they're sending ball screens. How is no one on that bench saying, okay, let's figure something out? How are we not, whether it's switching, whether it's just going to, hey, let's start in a 2-3 zone and switch to man as soon as that first ball screen gets set? Like, I don't comprehend how it cannot be an in-game adjustment constantly happening.
Yeah.
It's and I'm glad I didn't see the second half yesterday. I'm going to
probably better
rewatch
you
the game
didn't, yeah.
before Tuesday, but they have Ole Miss this week and at Auburn on Saturday. I think game day is going there.
Oh,
That's-
at Auburn.
That's the last note I want to make. They have 7 losses already. The bubble's not far away all of a sudden. They still have to go at Mississippi State, at Tennessee, at Auburn, home against Bama. You have a quad 3 loss at home. They have 2 quad 1 wins only.
Oh my gosh.
It's, again,
The bubble is a lot closer than it was farther away, like 3 weeks ago.
and again, just my
Wow.
last point is, if I was 80 today, I would not fire Calipari, but it's the closest I've been ever. And if nothing changes the rest of the year, I might be.
You're thinking about it.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'm going to say is, and you can speak a little bit more to this, I feel like coaches in college basketball, you're either a really good recruiter or you're a really good in-game coach. Kind of like with college football. You hire coaches to either be the guys that can go get the guys or the guys that can coach the guys in game. I feel like right now Kentucky has a bunch of really good recruiting coaches and nobody that's a really good in-game guy. And that's kind of what Kenny Payne was for this team.
That's what's so
I
funny.
said Kenny Payne
We
last
said
week.
last week.
I made a joke about it, and we were like, well, he hasn't been fired from Louisville yet. He's going to, obviously.
Louisville has been playing pretty
But
well lately.
They have,
Crazy enough.
actually. But
So-
they need to bring. If you look at the numbers of Kentucky when he was in part of that arsenal, like, he needs to be there.
Like Orlando Antigua is just taking up space on that bench.
He is strictly recruiting.
He doesn't.
Yeah,
Like
that's
he
all
gives
he
you
does.
nothing. in
One
game.
last thing about Kentucky, because when you guys were talking about bringing in the talent but not coaching in game, reminds me of, I think it was Lane Kiffin, and I hope I don't get this wrong. I think it was Lane Kiffin that said at Alabama when he was coaching there it was just like 1 year, right?
Yeah, he
But
was
they
there.
would
He was
walk
OC 1 year. Yeah.
But they would walk on the field and they would just look at the other team and they're like, we have so much more talent than this other team. They just knew it immediately. But what Saban, that's why he's the greatest college football coach of all time, Saban saw if, we're going to make our game plan. If it works, they have no chance. But the second that he saw, okay, make up an SEC coach. Mark Stoops finds something that they can beat us at. Saban immediately is like, okay, we need to change this at halftime because we know how to beat them now. And that's why he would win all the time.
He's one of the best in-game
and that's what John
adjusting coaches.
Calipari
And
is
he,
not doing.
Don't forget, he changed his whole philosophy. Like, he got with the time.
Completely.
Nick Saban.
He was vehemently against mobile running quarterbacks, and immediately when he brought Blake Sims in, it automatically
Yeah, he's like, no, I
became
gotta-
number
I
one
gotta
team.
do this,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's got to, and it's changed everything.
Adaptability, and
Yeah.
that's what Calipari has not done.
So, again, opportunities to turn around.
We'll
but
see where it
we're
goes.
running out of time.
Yeah, we will talk about the games coming up later on, but that Kentucky-Auburn game looms massive, and with how well Auburn's been playing at
and
home.
you get Ole Miss, again, they can't defend home court anymore. They got Ole Miss on Tuesday.
And Ole Miss hasn't been great on the road.
The movable object versus the stoppable force will prevail.
You better find a way to win that game. All right, let's switch gears to Purdue and IU from last night.
That was my topic for the week.
This is Dusty's said and done headline. I'm going to turn it over to him. I'm not surprised by the result. I'm not surprised by how Purdue played. I actually thought IU played fairly well for the first 10, 15 minutes of the game. and then kind of just let it get away from them. They're not a very good offensive team, IU is. But overall, I want to hear what you have to say about last night's game, and maybe, I guess, just the overarching 30,000 feet view of the Purdue-IU rivalry.
So, again, just to remind everyone, I was at a wedding last night, so I did not see the game. I did a read about today and saw the box score, and I thought this is a great time to bring the game up because Robbie could...
I can speak a little more to it, yeah.
Well, excitedly just talk about the game because I actually want to focus more on the IU part for IU listeners again because Nick said earlier as a AD you cannot fire someone and bring someone back. I'm going to get into a little bit about why they should bring Tom Crean back.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
With that said, Robbie, I'll let you take over talking about the Purdue IU game, and I have some good stats about Tom Crean that is why they should bring him back. But talk about the game last night, just how you feel about the Boilers now.
I feel okay. I thought they played pretty well. If you didn't see it, Zach Edey banked in a three-pointer, which is incredible. I think I've watched that about 15 times already, and it's been incredible ever since then. I want to get more into Purdue a little bit later on because they're my basically other lesser, like, what we call them, sidelines, not the headlines, but the sidelines.
Sideline, yeah.
I have a topic that I want to talk about with Purdue in terms of sidelines. By the way, you said Tom Crean's should be the head coach at IU.
Yeah, don't say he wants to be. Yeah, there's my hot take.
That is a hot take right there for sure.
Do you remember him at Georgia?
Well, that's part of my reasoning.
I can't wait to hear.
Don't kill the bit.
Yeah, overall, I thought Purdue played pretty well. I thought second half they played really well, especially defensively. It was hilarious. It's the coping mechanism that IU fans have put into after this game with trying to, reason with themselves that this result is okay is exactly the reason why their program is where they are right now. The fact that, X is injured, or, how dare the Purdue fan base say IU sucks. They're so dirty. Have you been to Assembly Hall and hear them say F you, Edie? Apparently not.
I went to the IU Purdue game. They kept chanting DUI at Mason Gillis.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, get off your high horse with that kind of stuff if you're an IU fan. I saw that on Facebook, and that's from the 65-year-old crowd that likes to put that kind of stuff out there. But overall, I'm pleased that we were able to win. First time since 1934, I believe, since Purdue has beaten IU in back-to-back games by 20 or more. Which, if you want to draw a fun parallel, Purdue does have a national championship. It wasn't the NCAA tournament national championship, but they won a national title in 1932. So, were you going to bring that up too, by the way?
No, but my grandpa, who used to be very close to, died about 3 years ago, and he was born in 1932.
Was he really?
That shows how long that's been.
Yeah, so 1932.
Sorry, it literally coughed up my teeth for
the
you
Second
listeners.
World War was still 7 years away.
Yes, it was. It surely was. But yeah, I'll dive more into Purdue here.
Wait, so you won the title during the Great Depression? That's kind of fitting for Purdue.
It fits that perfectly. Absolutely. Okay, I want to turn the tables then to you because you have something on that I want to hear about Tom Crean then.
All right,
or at least the fact, like Mike Woodson being the coach there. Which
so I kind of went to a spiral when I was talking about. Well, I was writing down notes for Purdue, Indiana. So just so you know, Tom Crean, after his 3-year rebuild, and if you want to say, that's when he was starting people like Daniel Moore, who honestly,
I can't believe he actually started.
Honestly, could not handle my jockstrap. That guy I used to tear apart when we would play Carmel.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he's listening to this.
Yeah, please come on and we can talk about it.
I would love
He used to complain to refs all the time.
That's the Carmel in him. It doesn't. So
Crean, after he got the rebuild going, he actually was 500 against Purdue. Doesn't sound like a lot, but since Crean left, IU is 3-10 against Purdue.
Yeah, Archie never beat them.
Yeah, so
3-10.
So here's what I'm getting at with Crean. Crean.
Are you sure? 3-10.
I'm just telling you.
Since Crean left,
which one you think? What do you think?
So Archie went 0-8, and then
they swept you last year. And then the Rob Finney show. So there's 3 wins.
I think it's like 3-13 now or something like that. Anyway,
sorry, it's not good since Crean.
It hasn't. It has not been good. Yes.
So, anyways, Tom Crean, who is an odd person,
that's pretty mildly.
Bloomington
yes, he is.
and Southern Indiana is an odd place. He had success there. He had the best team in the country in 2013. They got upset by Syracuse.
Team was really good.
Yeah, that was the year I was in grad school.
That's not
there.
fair. They got surprised. Syracuse played zone.
Yeah,
you could not saw that coming.
I wish Boeheim would come coach Kentucky at this point.
Oh, no, you don't want that.
But they threw out this zone that IU somehow was expecting. Anyway, so you have Crean, who's an odd guy in an odd city in Southern Indiana. Bring him back. He's an analyst. I don't like him as an analyst. He's odd on there too.
He's
but
weird there, too.
He's the perfect person who he probably does not care what anyone says. I'm trying to not share stories that I've heard about him, and not in a negative way, just being an oddball. What are you looking for right now? Clearly the Woodson thing isn't working out, where you thought, hey, let's bring back the IU guy. Okay, well, he's back, and everyone's complaining about him. Get Tom Crean back. So I never thought I'd say this, even a week ago, I never thought I'd say. I finally came to it this morning, my come to Jesus moment of this Sunday. Bring Tom Crean back to IU.
I'd be all for that.
Where do I sign up for Tom
I
Crean
will say
returning? Yes.
McConaughey has a quote that sometimes to go forward, you have to go backwards. So maybe that's what all it is.
All right.
I mean, it's better than I said Dan Dockage is still who I want. Bring him back.
I don't think I've ever been as happy as I am right now than hearing that IU has to bring back Tom Crean. That's how far that they have fallen and how poor they are.
They have fallen.
Well, you mentioned it last week. This roster that IU has constructed is abysmal.
It's like 5 power forwards and no point guards.
Again, and that's what we're saying last week, is they
sense.
need a point guard.
And Mike Woodson was complaining last night that the reason why that they are struggling so much is because they don't have Xavier Johnson. He makes that team worse.
I mean,
he's probably better. He's not playing for
they
you
should be
guys.
used to not having him because he gets kicked out of every other game
That
at this
too.
point.
Like he said, we miss his leadership. Who was he leading? He was leading you into the abyss. I don't know what you're talking about. And he went on a little bit of a tangent of, well, Purdue's had guys around there that have helped build their program. Yeah, because that's how you do that. And that's a whole other topic that I was going to bring up later, was that IU's trying to build a program with mercenaries, and they don't have that pedigree to do that anymore. If they want to be good, they need to build through recruiting the state of Indiana. And we already talked about last week. They can't be a mercenary team.
If I'm IU, I'm looking at Tom Crean right now saying we're going to double what Disney's paying you to be at ESPN. Come back, go find Yogi or Holes, where the hell they're doing in life right now. Bring them back and go find me the best point guard in the state. Like someone who has leadership, accountability type, just a presence. Go find the person. It doesn't have to be a 5-star guy, but someone who's going to come there, be there for 4 years, and build a culture. That's what they need to do.
Say about Tom Crean, he was at Georgia for 4 years, went 47 and 75.
Yes, I said ignore the Georgia years.
He was 15 and 57 in the SEC in 4 years.
Well, he just wasn't ready for It Means More in the SEC.
Did he recruit Anthony Edwards?
He did.
Okay, so, I mean, he's going to get you players.
He can get you players.
Now, can you win? I don't know. But, yeah, I could go on and on about IU being disappointed. But Dusty May, if he's not the first call that you make, you're doing something wrong. And Jeff Goodman's already kind of making that push. I was listening to Field of 60 on the way here. He's saying that, IU make the call, go get Dusty May. Yeah. And that would be a great hire, I think. That makes a lot of sense. But they can't fire Mike Woodson. You can't do that with a guy that is has the history of IU.
It's got to be a mutual.
It does have to be a mutual parting.
We agree this did not work out. Let's make it look good.
Or he could probably just retire, right? He's old enough. They could be like, he's
that's everything.
Yeah, he's coached long enough. He's ready to step away.
But the pride is probably going to get in the way of that happening.
Right.
So yeah.
But good win, Robbie.
Thank you.
Took care of business.
We took care of business, got it done. I didn't think it was pretty per se, but beating your rival by 20 points, especially after how last year we got carved up by Jalen Hood-Schifino in that second game. Which, by the way, if Jalen Hood-Schifino was playing in this game, I mean, they were doing the same stuff as last year. Just Trey Calloway wasn't as good coming off those side ball screens. So if he would have played last night, he probably would have had 50, and we actually probably would have lost.
But instead, he's sitting on the Lakers bench with LeBron.
Now he's on the Lakers bench doing a whole lot of nothing, which I still think he's going to have a chance to be a good NBA player, but just hasn't had that opportunity. All right, to my said and done storyline, and I'm going to kind of take a hard turn away from, I guess, on the court news to the Dartmouth men's basketball team. Now, for those of you who don't know, Dartmouth is not having a great season in the Ivy League. They're 5-14 overall and 1-5 in the league. Not great, right? Well, they may be changing the landscape, not just of college basketball, but of college sports as a whole. If you haven't heard, the National Labor Relations Board ruled Monday that Dartmouth basketball players are employees of the school, which that means that clears the way for an election that would create the first labor union for NCAA athletes. Basically meaning unionizing that would allow players to negotiate not only their salary, but working conditions that include practice hours and travel. So because this was what the official wrote in the ruling. Quote, because Dartmouth has the right to control the work performed by the Dartmouth men's basketball team, and the players perform that work in exchange for compensation, I find that the petition for basketball players are employees within the meanings of the National Labor Relations Act, wrote the regional director. Thoughts?
I'm a big dum-dums, like all this NIL stuff. Like, what do you make of this? Like, I don't, like, again, like, they can negotiate, but I guess my question is, like, what does this really change? I guess is kind of my like, I really don't know.
It opens up the opportunity for more structure, I think, because now you have a federal ruling putting this in place.
I was going to say the slippery slope that you're going into with this is coaches with egos that are going to get more control. And they're going to sell players on, you're going to love playing for me. Like, we all know how recruiting works. But once you get here, these players are going to realize now the coach. I love the idea because it is going to help stabilize NIL. Like, I think there's a happy medium in between that we can hopefully find. But now, when a coach tells you, you better be at study hall from 6 to 8, you better be taking 100 shots a day or 1,000 shots a day, whatever it's going to be.
And if you don't, then I can break the contract and kick you off the team.
Yes. So that's what I'm saying.
Because he's like a contracted employee.
I feel like we're finding two huge extremes. There has to be a happy medium, and maybe this is what pushes for that, though, because if you are a coach and you're aware of this, and I'm going to throw out a Ram team, just look at my notes. Morgan State I have, because for David Charles, we're going to do a MEAC update soon.
I love that.
If you're at Morgan State and for some reason you feel like I cannot control my players that well, okay, How do you even make these contracts? Is it 1 year, which is what a scholarship's supposed to be? Is it a 4-year thing? Like, there's just a lot more to it than just a statement of, okay, you are an employee now. So I don't know. We need to hear more and see if more schools do something like this. Of course, it starts with the Ivy League, which makes it even tougher.
I mean, it doesn't surprise anyone that it's starting out in the Ivy League. Yeah. So this would basically mean for the longest time, NCAA and the universities, they've insisted in saying that athletes are students, not employees. Remember, student in front of the word athlete. So even the NCAA universities, they lobbied Congress for a federal law that would codify classification as the NCAA faces a federal lawsuit in Pennsylvania. So potentially, universities and colleges won't be able to take advantage of student athletes as they will have rights afforded to them by being employees. That includes contracts, addition of salary cap, which that's a whole other topic that Rick Pitino brought up earlier this week.
Yeah, I saw that.
He thought about having the idea of a salary cap, which does make sense. But ultimately, and I've been saying this, I think for the past 10, 15 years, this would essentially dissolve the NCAA from ever being involved in college basketball and college football in general. Because at this point, college basketball is overseen by March Madness. And for those who don't know, the NCAA has no involvement in March Madness at all. It is its own separate entity. Same thing with the college football playoff.
I'll just say, and Division I football. Really.
CFP
it was the same thing with BCS
same exact thing. The NCAA has no bearing in that. So I think we're slowly moving into the potential for us having more structure in college sports, which it's a good thing, but also could open colleges and universities up to more liability of making sure that their athletes are taken care of, but also the fact that if we do have a salary cap, that could throw things into a whole nother situation. But for the longest time, we've been saying, these aren't student athletes either. These are professional athletes that happen to be playing in college.
Especially, like, we're not talking about, like, Ball State tennis players, right? We're talking about, like, the Bama football.
And that's a whole nother side of this thing is we focus on basketball and football so much with college sports. But, I mean, there's the NCAA has that commercial, 99% of our athletes are go professional in something other than sports, which is 100% true. Mm-hmm. But also,
I work in accounting.
Yes, exactly. So college sports in general it's the landscape is changing quickly. NIL has thrown a wrench into everything. There's always been, money under the table in college sports for since the beginning of time, since the beginning of college sports. Now it's just above the ground, and now it could get more, I guess, structured.
Because that's always been a problem, I think. Like the transfer portal, NIL, the NCAA was never proactive. It's the Wild West with all of this.
That's kind of the thing with. And you can speak better to this working within athletics administration a little bit more. People who work at the top in athletics administration, a lot of them are very lazy. and they just stick with the times.
They're checking boxes.
That's what it is.
They
They're
don't want to
checking
get.
boxes,
They
yeah.
don't. I think I told the story last week. Did I about? Actually, maybe it was a different interview where when I walked on at Kentucky, I had to fill out didn't do this, and I was in a gambling league. It was just simply like pick 10 NFL games a week. It's through my dad's work. Mm-hmm. And the question was, have you gambled in the last 365 days? I was like, well, I have. I'm just going to tell you I did. And they're like, well, check no, and let's move on, because they didn't want to deal with the paperwork that went with that. Because they just, for them, it's like, okay, we just want to send the paperwork. We're going to check this box. X player is good to go. Let's move on. And that's all they give a dang about.
Right. It's...
You think Isaiah Rodgers could check that box right now?
You could. I don't know.
And by the way, viewers or listeners, if you have any idea how little control the NCAA has over, like you said, March Madness and college football, if you go to the NCAA headquarters, which is here in Indianapolis, when you walk in, they always have like a pamphlet, obviously promoting the NCAA in their lobby. They list the college football national champion every year as the FCS champion. So, I mean, it's usually North Dakota or whoever that always runs through.
North Dakota
that
State,
is who
South
is known
Dakota
to
State,
the NCAA as the national champion.
Yeah. Makes sense. So
I guess
anyway,
overall, do you think this is good, bad?
I think it's a good thing. I think it
I
moves
think
us
it's good. Yes.
It moves us in a
Yes.
better direction. Now, obviously, pros and cons to everything that occurs with this kind of thing, but I think it is proactive and it's a move in the right direction, because right now NIL is it's the wild. Like, we thought recruiting used to be the Wild West.
It's
Wild West. Oh,
ridiculous.
it's way beyond that now. But it is time that we have gotten to this point in college sports that we have this. I just hope it stays in college and it doesn't trickle down to high school sports. That's where it could get really messy really quickly, because with how much more emphasis has gone into prep schools, especially with basketball.
I was going to bring up La Lumiere.
And La
right
Lumiere,
there. Yep.
IMG, things like that. That's a whole nother aspect of this thing that not many people are wanting to. Like, that's a Pandora's box you want to keep closed. You don't want to open that up anytime soon, because once you do that, then that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But I just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was a good topic of conversation, talking about Dartmouth, and kind of, again, leave the smart kids to figuring out those kinds of things.
We love the Ivy League on this podcast.
We are an Ivy League Mountain West pod from here on out.
And let me be clear, I'm very pro player for everything.
Right.
Go make as much money as you can in life. That's awesome. I do think this. I love that they're doing this, but we're looking at two extremes, and hopefully counteracting the whole NIL, transfer portal, all that stuff, all how hard recruiting is now. Hopefully, this ends with
Somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle.
I agree.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
Justin, I'm not even making fun of you, but I love when people say, like, I'm pro player. One time I want someone to be like, actually, I'm just anti-player.
I'm all for administration.
I'm all for administration.
We want the rich guys.
I
to
want the
continue
owners
this.
to
Over
keep
here.
on going.
Yeah.
Yep.
Keep getting going.
We're going to have Putin on our podcast next week.
I randomly saw him he had an interview with Tucker Carlson
Yes.
a couple days ago, and I watced that.
And now apparently the European Union is like trying to get him stuck in Russia or something like that.
Oh my god!
You guys know when Rodman went to North Korea?
Just like the weirdest. Like, we are in a weird day and age. 2024 is weird, man. A lot of weird stuff happening.
That's when we talk about college basketball.
All right.
So we can focus on other things.
Exactly. That's why we talk about things that don't rile up people. Like the fact that, well, I'm going to bring this up. So we talked a lot about Purdue. We talked about their win against Indiana, but I want to go more into Purdue right now, because I want to put out my hot take for Purdue today. And that's not talking about them winning a national championship. It's not talking about them going to a Final Four. Purdue and Zach Edey, they are the new enemy of college basketball.
Real quick, before we dive into this, because I'm thinking Big Ten, can I just say one note that I had right here before we dive into Purdue?
Okay.
Wisconsin sucks.
I was so wrong on them.
Great
I was
note.
so
Okay,
high on
now,
them.
yeah, let's talk
Great
about
note
Purdue
on
being the enemy.
Wisconsin.
I like this now.
All right. So I want to preface this by the way, by saying that currently there's a thread on the Purdue message board that I subscribe to that is debating which 16 seed they do not want to play. That's where we are with Purdue basketball right now.
Howard.
I do not want to see the Bison. Definitely. All right. So before last year, Purdue had never been ranked number 1 in the country, ever. That includes the years with, Joe Barry Carroll, Glenn Robinson, even John Wooden.
The Robbie Hummel teams.
Chris Hartley.
Chris Hartley was on the team. Dave Shieldhouse. Whatever it may be, Purdue has never been ranked number 1 in the country. Their last Final Four in 1980. National championship was not a tournament championship, but still a title, 1932.
Great Depression.
Correct. Where they were runners-up in 1969. So over these last couple weeks, I've heard and seen things such as the Wisconsin crowd yelling, basically saying that Zach Edey was overrated, and they were saying overrated in the first half, which I think is hilarious. The IU crowd has said many times, F you to Edey. The Northwestern game 2 weeks ago, Chris Collins was complaining about all the free throws Purdue had and literally said, quote, "Our big guys have 5 fouls each. We plan to use them." If you just do a search of Zach Edey on Twitter.
Like a threat.
Right, exactly. It basically is. If you do a search of Zach Edey on Twitter, you will find Wisconsin fans who are mad about how Edey was officiated last week. Northwestern fans mad that he shoots too many free throws. The Illinois fan that posted a weird picture of Zach Edey somehow at a Chicago dispensary a couple weeks ago. You'll now find IU fans that can't understand what a 3-second call is and don't realize that Zach Edey can actually stay in the lane for a little bit longer than 3 seconds if he picks his foot up and moves out. There are also IU fans that think that they didn't foul Edey once last night. Overall, Zach Edey is the most polarizing player in college basketball. It's not even close right now, and Purdue is the new enemy of college basketball. Thoughts?
I'm going to push back a little bit. I think of the Big Ten 1,000,000,000,000%. You are the big bad wolf. Because you saw last pod. Basically every year since 2018, they've been
top 5, top 10 team.
And probably one of the best teams in the Big Ten every single year.
Right.
Nationally, though, I just think the lack of those tournament moments, I don't think you've built enough hatred across the country.
That's fair.
Which, again, because you're saying enemy, like the way we all hated Duke and Coach K.
That's what I'm saying. Who's hated the most right now in college basketball? Of college basketball right now, who's hated the most?
Right, because
it is 100% Purdue is the hated the most right now because you can't really hate Kansas because they find ways to lose. UConn just won a national championship, but they play in the Big East, and not as many people are involved. You can say UConn. Okay.
But I think it's
who else? Wisconsin. When
Kentucky,
they were good,
the Blue Bloods are always just gonna be up there.
Yeah,
Kentucky,
but nobody hates Kentucky. Nobody hates North Carolina right now. So it's almost as if everyone is trying to find something to hate because that has become our culture and our society. We need to find something to hate and attack, and that's become this team from Purdue because hey, here's the 7'4" guy that he's just good because he's tall. So let's go after him. Which, by the way,
and he shows no emotion either. He's the most stoic person in the world. And
it makes no sense to me. So I want to bring up other players that are 7'3" or taller in college basketball. And I'm going to go through their stats and let you know, just because they're tall, they're good.
What's up?
Gabe Dines from Youngstown State averages 4 and 3. Mathok Majok from UMass averages 0.8 and 1 rebound. Adai Mera, freshman at UCLA, averages 3 points, 2 rebounds. Rocco Muratori, who's from West Lafayette, is averaging 0.4 points per game at Stony Brook. Those are all your 7'3" guys. Your 7'4" guys, Jordan Wilmore averages 1.8, 2.6 for Austin Peay. Naheem McLeod, 3.9, 4.3. Connor Vanover, 3.8, 2.5 for Missouri.
Who wears number 75.
Correct. Jamarion Sharp, averaging 3.8, 4.2. You will notice that of those 7'3", 7'4" guys I just mentioned, 8 of them in all, none of them average more than 5 points or 5 rebounds. I was under the impression that players who are that tall, it's just they're good just because they're that tall. That narrative has to stop.
It's I was too young for it, but I think then people say about Shaq, he's just too big.
He's just too big.
Which is, again, another just idiotic kind of thinking.
Go back to watch Shaq in the late 90s, or even when he was at LSU. He was the most unstoppable player in basketball for years.
Except for when he played against Hakeem. Go look up those stats.
Whatever. But anyway...
Okay, so I'm going to...
Last thing I'm going to say. Matt Painter had this talking point a couple days ago in one of his press conferences. Basketball is watched by millions but understood by few. And Bob Knight had that quote. He mentioned that in one of his press conferences. Could not agree more with what's going on.
I would say that's very true. There's nothing more irritating than when you look at Twitter feeds and you see all these people now, they're like, you don't know ball. Usually if you say that, you truly do not know.
You don't.
ball.
And I'm not claiming to say that I know I think I know a good amount of basketball, but at the same time, like anyone who comes at me or I see things on Twitter and they're usually Illinois fans or they're usually Wisconsin fans, and they have some dumb argument about Zach Edey, and it's just infuriating that they're that stupid.
So you're answering this for me. First of all, I will claim I do know ball very well.
Yes, I would agree with that.
What I'm going to tell you is I think the hatred for Purdue is very regional biased.
Okay.
I would say if you ask most people in the country, they probably don't even know that Purdue is in Indiana. Not even kidding. Because a lot of people don't even know Notre Dame's in Indiana. So on a national,
Notre Dame is not in Indiana; it's in Notre Dame.
Yeah,
you're right. It's they actually, for those that know, it used to be South Bend. It's actually now called Notre Dame, Indiana.
They are basically their own country.
Oh,
Their
I
own
didn't
governing
know, I
body.
seriously did not know that.
Yeah, they're Notre Dame,
Yeah.
Indiana. They're not in Indiana.
Kind of love that.
I don't count them as Indiana.
Yeah, it's Vatican City. in a
It
sense.
is Vatican City. That's a good point. Which is funny.
So I think Purdue is definitely hated within the Big Ten market. On national landscape, I really don't think they are. I think they're more probably lovable on national landscape. But what you see is you watch all the Purdue games, and you see everyone cussing out Edie, who's nothing but lovable.
Right.
Matt Painter, you can make jokes about him, and there's some things in his past, whatever.
Zach Edey's literally one of the nicest people on earth.
That's yeah. Sorry, guys, that was an inside joke from the Knowlesville-Brownsburg game on Friday.
I'll tell you about that later.
Yes.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I do not think that Purdue is hated on a national landscape.
That's I think the tournament thing, like no one.
I think,
And that's what I come back to is
love them.
how, like, even for Big Ten fans, I understand that you want to hate the team that wins. I get that. How can you hate the team that's losing to Fairleigh Dickinson, St. Peter's, North Texas,
Because
VCU?
Purdue Pete looks like a creep.
Well, yeah, he does. But that's there's. I do not understand the vitriol that people have.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't think on
it.
national landscape they're hated.
And, okay, in the national landscape, I agree. They're not as hated. And I see it from
the Big Ten, they are.
I see it through a Big Ten
same
lens.
thing.
And I think nationally, there isn't anyone who's hated.
And we
right
live
now.
in Indiana, and IU
Correct.
is the team over Purdue. Let's be real. And so you hear
Correct.
from all the IU people that they're jealous of Purdue's success.
And maybe it is jealousy.
IU expects to be what Purdue is right now.
Maybe it is jealousy. And I definitely see it through Big Ten glasses. And I see it regionally biased, but also I see it nationally because there's not a team that people hate nationally. Now, some people just dislike Dan Hurley because he's a crazy lunatic on the sidelines at some points, but you don't really hate it. So I guess regionally, Purdue has become that hated team, but I just cannot understand for the life of me, even in the Big Ten, why you would hate this team.
What I will tell you, and then Nick has a point, as a diehard, my entire life Houston Astros fan, embrace it, my man. It's so much fun.
I'm loving it.
It's so much fun being the villain.
You said it last week where you can't understand fans that just don't enjoy watching their team play, or at least like going into it and having fun watching them.
I don't enjoy watching the Reds, for the record.
Okay. Not many do. Let's be honest. I have never had more fun watching Purdue sports probably over the last 5-6 years than this stretch lately.
Yeah.
Whether it's been football, basketball,
and soak it in.
And I am. I definitely. I mean, and this is not me bragging, but man, it's been fun. And I hope it ends in a really fun way coming up in early April in Glendale, Arizona. I don't know if it will or not, but I wanted to bring that up, and I'm glad you guys kind of brought me back into making sure that I'm not crazy. But you bring up 100% correct points. It is definitely regionally based.
And I just want to say, you asked a question, who the villain of college basketball right now. I think that's also not concern of college basketball, but it's weird. Like, we have Jay Wright's retired, Coach K's retired, Roy Williams gone. Like,
right now,
and then players, one and done's bigger than ever. Transfer portal.
Tom Izzo is like one of those. Tom Izzo is one of the mainstays that is still around in college basketball.
Really
that
is.
I think he's lost his. I mean, Purdue fans don't really like Tom Izzo because he's taken a couple of our recruits over the past 10, 15 years. But there's just sports in general feed off of that. Hatred and anger and vitriol, kind of like what we have with the Super Bowl coming up tonight. People are going after the Chiefs because Patrick Mahomes cannot stop winning. And again, I don't understand. I don't hate the Chiefs. I don't hate the 49ers.
I don't either.
Now I hate the Patriots because they're the Patriots, and Bill Belichick's a dirty cheater, and so is Tom Brady. But we're not going to get into that. We're talking about the fact that Purdue is the villain now, and I love the way you guys are putting it, and now that you've kind of talked me into it, I'm definitely embracing
it. If Purdue
it.
does make a Final Four or does win a Natty, then we could start reaching out for that plate this year. But
did people hate Virginia in the ACC when they made their run to the national championship?
I hate Virginia because they're just boring as hell to watch.
Okay, they were boring.
Yeah,
and
they
that's
were.
like Purdue is not boring. Purdue is genuinely
fun.
enjoyable to watch.
Shout Kyle Guy for listening, but goddamn, you guys are, sorry for cussing. You guys are so boring.
And Kyle, big fan of you as a person. Your teams were boring as hell.
If Kyle Guy could just have missed 2 or 3 shots in that Elite Eight game, that would have been fantastic.
That would have been lovely.
It took he went the entire tournament like shooting 25% from three. And then all of a sudden, that second half of that game, he's like, you know what? I'm going to start making my shots, and I'm going to make my life. I'm going to make, that guy that's from Noblesville, Indiana, that loves Purdue too much, that took a walk out in a driving rainstorm after that game with his dog because he couldn't find anywhere else to go. I'm going to make him miserable. And congratulations, Kyle. You did it.
And speaking of Kyle, I'll go ahead and give a little prop to him. What's the Bucket List podcast? They just released in the last couple of weeks. So if you want to listen to that.
No free ads.
Yeah, no free ads. Hey, Kyle, I'll send you my Venmo after this. But really good podcast. They have Luke Garza coming on soon,
Awesome. Luka Garza, that was a guy I disliked when he was at Iowa.
That boy
If we're
could
talking
score.
about hatred, that dude is... I still think he has a place in the NBA. Someone needs to give him a chance.
He just defensively is just a nightmare.
He's a little slow and he's got lead feet, but man, he can score the rock. So very cool, awesome, good shout out there. Let's move on to our final 4 and 1. We're going to jump into our other topics going forward, but those were some really good storylines and we brought some good information there. So our final 4 plus 1, Nick, I want to start with you. Have you moved off your final 4 plus 1?
My final 4 after a lot of consideration, I got Houston, Illinois, Marquette, Colorado State, my plus one's FAU.
Change.
Nope.
You didn't change at all.
Well, one week I'm not going to change my tune. I'm willing to change, but nothing changed. Nothing changed.
I just Illinois is I not when I went back and listened to the pod, you mentioned that there's a team that I hate or I just don't like that somehow is going to make it. I think Illinois fits that perfectly.
That's what,
I will say that.
And like Miami's a good example. Like, not that I hated Miami. I love Jim Larinaga, but like watching was like, this team's not good.
How is this team doing this?
And then like in the next thing they're in the final 4.
And I could definitely see Illinois doing
That's
that.
what they feel like doing.
Like they had no business losing that game yesterday to Michigan State, and they did. And I don't know how they did. Secondly, I legitimately do not think Marquette has a remote chance of making the Final Four.
It's just I love Tyler Kolek so much. So I'm just but you're right. Shaka Smart, I think we mentioned last week, he's made it past the Sweet 16 one time, and that was the original VCU run.
2011 VCU team, yeah.
And he's not been back since. So yeah, it's...
Did you ever go back and watch those VCU highlights for that run to the Final Four?
I actually watched the Kansas one about a couple months ago.
That team was amazing. They were so good. Joey Rodriguez. There was a guy named Burgess as well. Who else was on that team? They had another really good guard, but like those guys were awesome.
They were
so good.
Just guards everywhere that could score. It was like a modern offense.
And they sped you up. Like, yeah, that was fun. So, all right, Nick has not changed his Final Four. He's sticking to it.
Shout out VCU. They beat Dayton on Friday night. That was a big win.
49-46?
47. Yeah.
Or 47? Either way, it was under 50. So, amazing. FAU needed that win over Wichita State today. They got it.
Yeah, so for people to know, we had to delay the podcast today to watch the Owls
just a few
win
minutes to see them in overtime. Yeah.
Wichita State, for people who don't know, is abysmal these days. So FAU got the much needed win, and God, every game's a sweat for them. But hey, win's a win. We move on, Robbie.
And I think that's kind of a product of the height that they've reached. Is they're going to get everyone's best shot because everyone wants to take them down. So I think it makes them better in the long run. But I will segue that into talking about my Final Four then, which has not changed a little bit. I did move Kentucky out.
Smart.
Which is, I think, a smart move. So I'm sticking with UConn and North Carolina, even though North Carolina lost to Clemson. I'm moving South Carolina up from my +1, and I have them in my Final Four now, and I'm sticking with my FAU Butler theory. In my +1 this week, I got to go back to Indiana State. Like the Sycamores, baby. I love Robbie Avila. And Ryan Conwell, Pike guy, who now plays at Indiana State. He is a dead-eye shooter. He's so good. I am really pulling hard for Indiana State. I hope they make a run. I hope they find a way to get into this thing and do something big. Because I know how much that would make the people in Terre Haute just excited for basketball again. Because if you've never been to Terre Haute, it has not changed much.
Don't.
Yeah. It has not changed much since the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It's definitely it is what it is. But I know there's a lot of people there who love Indiana State, and it would be awesome to see them find a way to make it a big run of the tournament.
And the good thing about Indiana State is they should have an at-large resume or close to it.
I think they're getting pretty close. I mean, they are definitely flirting.
Upset, they hopefully should still get in.
They're flirting with a top 6-7 seed right now, which is really impressive.
Yeah.
And again, Josh Schertz is doing an awesome job as the head coach there, so got to give him his props. But so my Final Four not changing too much, but I did move Kentucky out of my Final Four until they can find a way to figure things out. They don't deserve to be in there. So
They
Dusty,
couldn't guard this podcast. I think
correct.
that's a good decision.
Dusty, are you changing your Final Four? How much is it changing?
I reluctantly put in UConn this week. I took out North Carolina. They are not playing well right now and should have lost to Miami yesterday.
Yeah, they should have lost that Miami game. Yeah.
I believe that's the only change I made.
we haven't
no.
mentioned yet.
I took out New Mexico after Nick lost money for all of our listeners, and I added in Nevada, who is, what we see?
Wolfpack, baby.
Yeah, has six
quad one wins.
Yeah, which is like 6 or 7 best in the country.
That's amazing.
Wolfpack, welcome back.
And that's big too because they're like the 6th team in the Mountain West. So if they have 6 quad one wins, they should have 6
huge.
teams in that tournament.
That's amazing. Speaking about teams that are losing at home to unranked teams or losing on the road against unranked. So I pulled up this stat and I sent it to all of us, but I want to make a note of it. And this is incredible. Unranked teams at home against teams ranked in the AP top 10 this year in college basketball. Those unranked teams against AP top 10 teams are 31 and 28 at home.
Jeez.
If you want to go, so this goes all the way back to 2010. The best record over the last, so and this is counted for 15 years. In 2015, 32 and 52 was a 38% winning percentage. That's been the best since then. In the last 14, 15 years, there's not been a better record for unranked teams at home against AP top 10 teams since then. And now it's above 50%.
And it's over 500.
Unranked teams at home against top 10 teams have a 50% chance or better than winning.
And it feels like it too. It feels like every night you
crazy.
It doesn't even count like Clemson win at North Carolina the other night.
And Purdue counts for 2 of those because Purdue lost at home to Nebraska, or Purdue lost at Nebraska, and then Purdue lost to Northwestern. So, like, that's
Right.
It's unreal.
And
Like,
again,
that's crazy
There's
this
been a lot
year.
of questions about that. Like, is it like just more parity than ever because of like transfer portal, the extra NIL year or COVID year?
I think that's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's an anomaly. Like, I don't think this is a trend going forward, like some people are suggesting. But it is very interesting to me.
Do you think it's a trend, Dusty?
I don't really know any more of college sports.
It's hard to say.
It's fun.
It is fun.
That's what's important.
It's
I mean,
really
you want
fun.
to get people to tune into it. Unfortunately, I've seen people on ESPN of all places recently really ripping the men's game, and I'm sure there's something where they're trying to promote the women's game, especially. That's not a knock on the women's game at all. It's amazing right now.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark's actually within 20 points of breaking the record as we're
doing this.
But they talk about how they don't know anyone. And it's like, who cares? Just the games are fun. It's so much fun to watch. So yes, I could see this trend continuing for a long time.
I'm kind of the same. I'm going to go off of college basketball to the NBA. Like, people who hate the NBA, like, it's.
They don't want the people who hate it don't watch it.
Amen.
Yeah, I guess.
That's what I think.
It's they don't play defense. Do you know how hard it is to guard Kevin Durant?
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous.
You go close out.
Yeah, please
Knock
go
yourself
guard.
out.
Please go guard
One of my
Kevin Durant.
favorite, actually, first lady of the show, Haley. One of our favorite clips to watch is there's year was Patrick Beverly and why am I spacing? Great six man
For the Rockets?
No, they were playing for the Clippers at the time.
Lou Williams.
Thank you. It was Lou
Oh,
Williams.
Lou Williams, good call.
And Durant dropped like 40 something in a playoff game, and they literally got asked post game. They're like, "Did you think about changing like your defensive whatever on Durant?" And Lou Williams leans in and he goes, "I mean, we were trying to guard him. You tried guard. Yeah."
The quote was, "I promise you, we tried."
Yeah, I promise you we tried.
I promise you we
He's
tried.
Kevin Durant. Like,
That's
Just the most
fantastic.
wholesome quote in the world.
Yeah.
I promise you, we tried.
we tried. Oh, that's basketball in general. Yeah, I just maybe this is just one of those times where I do not understand like just hatred and like people hating things in general. Just like be kind, be nice,
Yes.
be positive.
seriously, be
I don't
nice,
understand.
people.
I don't understand the hatred for things anymore.
That should be the theme of this podcast. Just be positive.
Be positive, be nice.
All right, I take back. Wisconsin does not suck. They're struggling right now.
They are having a tough time.
Sorry,
that is
Wisconsin.
definitely for sure.
I put a heavy wager on them yesterday. Bet responsibly, everyone.
Bet responsibly, please. Boy, you've been really struggling lately.
Yeah.
I'll mention my 14er I hit in a little bit.
Congrats.
Thank you. I know you're very happy for me. All right, to our favorite part of the show. We're going to shout out the mid-majors. I'm calling this, by the way, now Far From Mid, which I think fits very well. I'm going to shout out my team first.
Go ahead.
Because I think they deserve a shout-out. And this is not a team that is having a great season, but I think they deserve their props. And that is mighty Chicago State. And this is a team that you probably don't know very much about, and not many people do. They're only 11-17, so not having a great year. But this is Chicago we are talking about. Chicago, Illinois. The Cougars of Chicago State. Currently not in a conference. They are playing this year as an independent.
They're the only one, right?
They are the only
Heck
independent
yes.
team in college basketball right now. They have 10 players on their team from Florida. 10 players from Florida willingly left Florida to go to Chicago and play basketball in Chicago. Those players deserve all the credit in the world. They have one player from Chicago, one player from Gary, Indiana. Their head coach is Gerald Gillian, who has no experience playing college basketball, which I think is hilarious. He's a Florida native and graduated from Florida State. He started coaching high school basketball, worked his way up as an assistant. Chicago State has won 4 of their last 6. They won at Northwestern earlier this season. They have wins over Southern Illinois, Valpo. They beat Stetson twice. Now, why have they played Stetson twice? I don't know. Don't ask me.
Well, Stetson's in Florida.
Stetson is in Florida. That's a good point.
Took everyone
And
home.
they also beat Fairleigh Dickinson, which any team that beats Fairleigh Dickinson, you guys are good with me. So a shout out to Chicago State. It may not be having a great season, but I think they deserve some props for sticking with some tough times going through an independent year. They're joining the Northeast Conference next year.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like they've been like one of the worst Division I basketball teams forever.
For a long
and like
time.
I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago. They could not find a head coach.
And they have
it was just a
double-
vacant position for months.
They have double-digit wins, which is great for them. So, shouts to Chicago State. Nick, you're far from mid-team this week.
So I kind of want to keep the theme of what I did last week. I did the whole Mountain West just against our first show. So I'm kind of doing something similar. It's just one team today, and that's the Vermont Catamounts.
The Cats.
For people who either don't remember or don't know, it has been one of the best. What?
Okay, so I didn't know you were going to say Vermont. Vermont, Purdue to the Big Ten is Vermont to the
American
East. Yeah,
Well, it's funny.
Yeah,
everyone
they
out there
don't
has
like
to
Vermont
hate
over there.
Vermont.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say
They've
that,
been good
Krabb,
for
'cause
20
you're
years,
right.
for those that don't know.
They have made the tournament. Okay, we had a tournament get canceled. So of the tournaments possible, they've made 4 of the last 6, and they've won their regular season American East every year since 2017. So they're just
That's impressive.
It is just a wagon. And once again, their first place. They're 19-6, 9-1 in the conference. I think Becker's the coach. He's been there forever.
I don't know who the coach is.
I think it's Becker's
Yeah,
his
okay.
name. But regardless, again, not much really to report other than just they're good again. 9-1 first place. They're probably going to go in the tournament again.
And they always find a way to be really frisky in the tournament. I remember the one year they beat Syracuse in the first round when TJ Sorrentine hit that really deep shot. Sorrentine hit that one from the parking lot. Is one of my favorite lines. And by the way,
I believe they beat Kansas one year in the first round as well, like mid 2000s. Like maybe Nick Carlson, that timeline. I could be wrong.
that was
on this.
Bucknell. Bucknell beat
Bucknell, thank
Kansas,
you.
and then
Yes, yes.
Bradley
beat Kansas a little bit later.
because they're on one shining moment.
Yeah, that was
if I recall.
Bradley beat Kansas
And
that
then
year.
Northern Iowa got Kansas a couple years later.
Purdue played Vermont in 2017, I think, and Vermont was a 13 and Purdue was a 4, and Vermont, like they were in that game the whole way, and they had a really good team. Well, they're going to get to a point. Vermont's going to get to a point where they take down another big boy coming up here soon because they kind of hover within like a 15-16 seed. That's not a team I would want to see at that line.
Well, I was going to make that point. Like, I guess I know they beat Syracuse back in the day. I guess at least in my time frame, they've not had that like big time upset yet.
They don't have that signature win in the tournament,
So I feel like
and they're
it's
getting
looming,
they're
I feel
getting
like.
close.
Yeah.
it could happen coming soon because they have a great basketball program.
The
there.
most notable thing I know about Vermont.
Get them to the A10, by the way.
I think at some point they'll move off the American East and get to a bigger conference. Yeah, it's coming.
Is when I think about Vermont, if you ever ran down all the states on a map, people always get Vermont and New Hampshire mixed up.
Correct, yes.
When you go from west to east, opposite alphabetical order. So it goes Vermont, then New Hampshire if you're going west to east. So keep that in mind.
VNs, always I remember.
Well, I always remember it looks like the Vermont, the way it's shaped, it kind of looks like a T. So I just remember Vermont. That's the way I remember it. What'd you get on your ACT again?
I thought you were going with a different shape. So we'll just move on.
This is a clean pot.
Yes,
don't
I
what
know.
you
That's why I
possibly be
stopped.
thinking.
Does
Yeah.
it look like a V?
It looks like it. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Dusty, you're far from mid-team this week is.
So my far from mid team isn't really a mid major. It's someone kind of in the cusp in the middle, but because I'm going to break down 2 conferences real quick. So my team is South Florida. So South Florida.
You just hate my Charlotte 49ers
no,
from last
so I
week.
did
Is that
more
why?
research on South Florida. I didn't realize
Yeah,
how
by
good
the way,
the
all
Bulls were.
this crap I got from New Mexico, are you just not going to talk about Charlotte?
I didn't
losing?
pick Charlotte. Well, Charlotte wasn't a lock. I was just shouting them out.
I was just making a point, just saying.
So South
Having the
Florida,
Final Four.
South Florida is 17-5 on the season, 10-1 in the conference. They started 2-4. So they've won 15 over the last 16, and their only loss is at UAB, who was my pick last week and who beat Florida Atlantic at home.
I'm aware.
Lost at UAB
All I do is
by
lose.
4. Their leading scorer is a guy named Chris Youngblood. They have a stud point guard. I actually YouTubed him today, watched some clips. Jaden Reed. I think
Jaden Reed, not the Jaden Reed that currently plays for in the NFL for Michigan State.
Clearly
though.
not, unless he's double dipping right now.
He could.
But Jaden Reed, if you get a chance for anyone who loves watching point guard play, go watch him play for South Florida. Like him a lot, and saw some pretty sick clips of him today.
Okay.
So South Florida gets my shout for
Go
this
Bulls.
week. Go
Especially
Bulls.
they're in basketball have just never gone hand in hand. So that's good to see them.
No.
South Florida's, aren't they leading the American now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they have to because
they
them and
beat
Charlotte
Charlotte,
are tied. So 10-1 in the conference.
Okay. Shout out to South Florida, man.
In
Jeez.
terms of conferences, again, for those, the smaller conferences, most of them have 3 weeks left. So I'm going to keep updates on the conferences we've talked about. So last week I brought up the Ivy League. Big game over the weekend. Mm-hmm. Yale beat Cornell at home. So Yale is now 7-0, leading the conference. Cornell is 6-1. Princeton is 5-2.
Wait a second. Hold on. Yale came back and won that game?
Yep.
Cornell was up double digits in that game, I thought.
Feel free to fact check.
The comeback kids.
Let me double check that. Well, I know you're right.
Now
I just
I'm
want to make
nervous.
I just want to make sure that I was right because I thought Cornell was winning that
did
game
send us
by
a
a bunch.
text.
Yeah, so Yale did win that game, 80-78. I thought for a moment in that game. So yeah, Cornell was up by.
This is why the podcast is named after me.
Correct. Cornell was up by double digits in the first half, and Yale came back and won that game. Wow. Big win for the Bulldogs and James Jones.
So that's your Ivy League update. My precious Brown team is now 2-5, I believe, in conference, so they're falling off quickly. Probably won't make the tournament. So this week again, as I
By the
mentioned
way,
earlier.
Columbia beat Brown. Suck it.
So my target conference for this week, again, thanks to David Charles. He is an older man, so he may be asleep when he listens to this at night. But the MEAC, we're
This is gonna
updating
put him
on.
to sleep.
The MEAC is a bloodfest right now. It's a conference that usually plays their games on Saturdays and Mondays. Unfortunately, they have no games tomorrow.
Bummer.
Is it President's Day this
Super
week
Bowl
or next
Monday.
week? Or Super
Next
Bowl
week.
Monday? Yeah, so the MEAC's
President's-
probably getting
President's-
rowdy tonight. But I'm just going to give you the standings, and then we'll just move on from there. Every team does play this Saturday. No, there's 5 games on Saturday. But here's just the standings. NC Central and Norfolk State are both 5-2. Morgan State, Howard, and South Carolina State are all 4-3. And then Delaware State is sitting there at 3-4. So they do play the second weekend, right? They're the same week as the bigger conference. So 4 weeks left, and you have 6 teams within 2 games.
That is going to be a conference that I bet we'll see one of the lower seeds end up winning it.
And I would say almost all of their games on ESPN Plus. If you're getting bored at night and want to get rowdy and watch some good college basketball, get in on the MEAC and enjoy just a fun conference race.
Yeah, for people remember Norfolk State, who upset Missouri 12 years ago? They're from the MEAC.
It was like 2011, 2012,
It was the year Kentucky. Yeah, so
So that
2012.
conference, that's not the only team that won as a 15. Remember
Hampton.
Coppin State and Hampton.
Oh, yeah.
Like both those teams. Hampton, by the way, is where did Hampton move to? Hampton's now in the Hampton moved into the Coastal Athletic Association. So but they were in the MEAC for a long
An
time.
amazing
yes.
thing about that Hampton Iowa State game, we were in 6th grade, Robbie and I were, and our teacher had everyone draw a random team for the bracket, and I actually drew Hampton. And one of my good friends, Alex Robinson, who coaches girls college basketball, girls high school basketball, just won regionals yesterday.
Congrats to Alex.
Good luck next weekend.
Yeah.
And Alex drew Iowa State.
Did he really?
Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's one of those classic. That was from '97. That Jamal Tinsley, Marcus Pfizer, all on that
Marcus
team.
Pfizer.
From Iowa State, and little old Hampton came in there and beat him. That game was played in Boise, Idaho. Again, so much useless knowledge is up in my head. You have no idea. But yeah, MEAC is going to be pretty spicy, I think, when we continue to move through the conference tournaments. 8 teams there in all, and I'll make my connection. South Carolina State beat Chicago State over the weekend. So that's a team that's in the MEAC that beat my far from mid team. So shout out to the South Carolina State Bulldogs.
Shout out Shaq Leonard.
I was about to say one alma mater of one Shaq Leonard. So yeah, that'll be a fun one. So a lot of teams in there that could get frisky in March. All right, so there's our far from mid. Good shout outs there from our team. What to watch for this week? My gosh, we have got some big time games this week, fellas. Let's just start on Monday, which again, day after the Super Bowl. So kind of going through your Super Bowl hangover that you kind of get over from eating too much, maybe doing other things. I don't know.
Yeah.
But Kansas at Texas Tech. This is Kansas last week lost at K-State on a Monday night. Kansas has not been good on the road.
And I'm guessing Texas Tech's one of those teams like no one's really talking about. They're kind of just like
they've been pretty quiet.
Yeah,
but
they're one of the better teams in the Big 12.
Very good team defensively. And we also have a winless team on watch. Mississippi Valley State hosts 5-win Alcorn State tomorrow on Monday night. So could be an opportunity for the Delta Devils to get their first win. We'll see how that goes. Tuesday's games are really good. Marquette at Butler, North Carolina at Syracuse, Ole Miss is at Kentucky. Wildcats have to have that one. My fun one, though, Colorado State at San Diego State coming up Tuesday night is going to be great. I cannot wait for that one. And New Mexico at Nevada. Another quad one opportunity for the Wolfpack to add to their resume. So a lot of good games on Tuesday.
I also want to add in St. John's at Providence. That's kind of like both teams need to win to make the tournament.
Yeah.
So that's a big
a good one, too.
tournament-esque game.
Wednesday has 2 games on opposite ends of the spectrum. You have South Carolina at Auburn, which is a big game for the SEC race, but also a game that we talked about last week on the show. IUPUI is at Detroit Mercy. Could it be an opportunity for the Titans to finally break the winless streak, which we're going to talk a little bit about more about Detroit when we get to our viewer questions segment. Thursday's games, Temple at Florida Atlantic. Owls got to win that one. Minnesota's at Purdue. Don't know if you've been watching the Big Ten race. Minnesota is currently 5th in the Big Ten right now.
No kidding.
Makes no sense to me, but Ben Johnson has to be up for Coach of the Year in the Big Ten. He's doing a great job.
Lions OC?
No, different Ben Johnson. SMU at Tulane. Hofstra is at Drexel. Big coastal game there. And then Memphis is at North Texas. I don't know if you guys knew this, but North Texas calls their arena the Super Pit. Because obviously the New Mexico Lobos, they play in the pit. Well, we're going to one-up you, New Mexico. We're going to call our place the Super Pit. Didn't know that. Friday, New Mexico is at San Diego State. That is a game you want to keep on your radar for a couple reasons. And then Saturday's slate is awesome. You can pick out a bunch of games. Some Pac-12 rivalries. Arizona's at Arizona State. Oregon at Oregon State. Yale's at Princeton. Indiana State plays at Southern Illinois. Harvard's at Columbia.
Marquette's at UConn.
Marquette's at UConn. Creighton plays at Butler. Youngstown State's at Cleveland State. That's a big one on the horizon. Kansas does not play at Fog Allen this week. They go to Oklahoma on next Saturday. Lafayette is American. McNeese at Nichols. Don't look now, but Will Wade has McNeese at 20 wins this year.
Just got a 5-year extension from McNeese.
And just got an extension as well.
IU.
My lock of the week, we'll get to that.
Keep an eye on that one. Other than that, those were my big games of the week until we come back and pod next Sunday. Kentucky, can they keep it within 15 points at Auburn? Honestly, you know what? That could be
Auburn, for people, they got smoked at Florida yesterday.
Florida beat the brakes off of them.
Kentucky's going to go 2-0 this week. It's just one of those years.
I will. This is that Kentucky at Auburn game feels like a game where Kentucky just shows up and finds a way to win.
That's my point, and I said that with an eye roll. Like, it's not like I'm being cocky.
No, maybe them away from home is actually what
they could definitely win that game.
They're 2-4 in the last 6. Only 2 wins are on the road, so maybe that's what it is.
That's nuts. So a lot of really good games in college basketball this week as you guys turn the tables from the NFL and football and go full speed into college hoops. So there's your what to watch for the upcoming week. Let's look ahead. We're now on to our locks of the week. And as Nick mentioned in the pod earlier, his lock failed miserably. Dusty and I nailed it. I had Alabama at Auburn over and Auburn money line both hit with ease. Dusty had UAB money line over Florida Atlantic. That one won and got some cheddar cheese for a couple people that we saw on the Facebook page. And obviously Nick, again, the one that I thought was the easiest lock of them all, the Lobos did not show up against the Runnin' Rebs and lost at home.
I hope everyone gambled responsibly on that one.
I hope so, too.
If not, Venmo request Dusty. He'll send you the bill.
More importantly, Robbie texted Nick and I before the game and asked Nick if he wanted the money line or the spread on the New Mexico game, and Nick basically responded, "I'm not a wimp. I'll go ahead and take the points."
Well,
and New Mexico lost overall.
Well, lucky for me, they both no.
Wouldn't matter whichever you took.
So yeah, there you go.
By the way, I had 2 people message me and asked, "Are you going to pay me back for this New Mexico pick?" I kid you not.
Which also, if you do say it, people out there, we had 2 other winning bets this week. Okay,
That's what I was gonna say.
2-1 on the pod.
So technically 3-1 because I had Auburn money line and Auburn Alabama over.
Our boy Joe Steele said he won.
I was gonna say
over $100 on $5 bets by taking our
great
locks.
to see Joe. You put our locks into place, but Nick's lock lost him some money.
I consider myself a man of faith. As there's a deep fly ball
There's
to
a
left
deep fly
field.
ball. Whoa, where'd that come from? All right, let's get to our locks of the week. I will wait on mine. I'm going to let Dusty start. Dusty's lock of the week is...
I kind of flirted with it. So mine is McNeese State. Well, I think it's just McNeese now.
It's just McNeese, yeah.
They're at Houston Christian tomorrow night. Don't know the spread. I would guess in the 8 to 10-ish.
Yeah, so that's... I will preface this by saying that they don't come out. They don't put the lines out until day of now. So basically, you're kind of predicting it, but we will update the lines and put those out on social media on our posts. Yeah.
So I'm taking as McNeese is 7-3 on the road this year. Houston Christian's 5-4 at home.
Ooh.
Not a very good team. You're talking about college kids on the Monday after the Super Bowl. McNeese means business. Will Wade just got the extension they just talked about, so I think McNeese goes in there tomorrow and just floors them. So McNeese is my lock tomorrow night.
Love that lock. Nick, your lock of the week, which by the way, you're on watch.
I am.
Okay.
But hey, was it like fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, whatever it is.
You're on zero tolerance policy.
We are
on
on zero tolerance policy. I apologize to all the fans out there, but I got you guys.
They depend on us. I don't know if you saw that. They really depend on us for these kinds of things. Which
how does this happen?
Shout out to all of you that depend on us. We think we're experts, but at the same time, we don't really know what we're doing in this instance. But yes. Nick, please redeem yourself, Nick.
The quote Hyman Roth from The Godfather, this is the business we've chosen, so that's the business we are in.
We must sit in it, as some would say.
Hyman Roth. All right, but my, what are we doing again? Lock of the week.
Hot take Nick coming in with his lock of the week.
This one, I think, I love this one. Kansas is going to win at Texas Tech tomorrow night. They're +2 right now. Kansas basketball is going to be Kansas basketball at some point this year. So
that is a hot take.
It's +2. I actually have a line for you guys.
Okay, because it's Monday night. Yeah.
So hope you're listening by Monday. Jayhawks, Rock Chalk.
That would scare me to death. That line in that game.
Do I look scared of you, Robbie?
You were a little concerned yesterday, I think, after watching Kentucky lose and New Mexico lose. So anyway, okay. So Kansas on the spread so you said +2.
+2.
Okay.
If you want to do ML, I wouldn't stop anyone from
surely
doing that.
that gets you get the hook on that in 2.5. So maybe it gives you a little bit of help there. But regardless, interesting move. All right, there's Nick's lock. Nick, my lock of the week's an easy one. San Diego State. They're at home against Colorado State on Tuesday. And even though the Rams are my Mountain West team, San Diego State does not lose at home. They've won 17 straight home games. And it just so happens, remember I mentioned last week about how they just never lose back-to-back games? Well, they lost to Nevada this week. And guess what happens? They're going to play Colorado State on Tuesday at home after a loss. Lock it in. Aztecs, there is no way they're going to lose to Colorado State. You can do money line, you can do spread, you can tease that spread if you want to. San Diego State, lock it in. There's no way they're losing on Tuesday night to the Rams and Isaiah Stevens. Even though, Isaiah, I love you. Sorry, it's just business.
It's just business. I love that pick too, Robbie.
Thank you. So there's our locks of the week. Couple really good ones. I am eager to see. I love the McNeese one. That Kansas one, I am really, you have some proving to do over there, young fella. So you need the Jayhawks to come out and get that win.
Come
All
on,
right.
Bill Self. Please.
Moving in towards the tail end of our show here, it's viewer question time, and we got 2 questions from, we're putting the spotlight on the first ladies of the pod. That happens to be the wives of Dusty Mills and myself, Robbie Donahoe here.
I'm still single, by the way.
Oh, we haven't even talked about this.
Valentine's Day is coming up.
That's one of the questions.
Yes, that is one of the questions. We were going to get to that. But we're going to start with First Lady of the Pod, Haley's question. What about Detroit Mercy? When is the last time a team went completely winless? And I did a deep dive into this and found some pretty interesting things. So the last men's D1 team that went winless was back in 2012-2013 when Grambling went 0-28. Pretty terrible. I don't know if you remember, Dusty, but there was a time where we were talking about NJIT all the time, and they were like one of those team names that we used to give other teams in the Noblesville basketball camps, like ITT Tech and things like that. NJIT went 0-29 in 2007-2008, so not great. In women's D1, St. Peter's is the most recent team that went winless. They went 0-30 in 2022 to 23. So, suck it, Peacocks.
Take that.
Yeah. By the way, that's a team that beat both Kentucky and Purdue a couple years ago. And then, but the team that definitely takes the cake for winless teams, that would be Centenary. The women's basketball team at Centenary has gone through some really rough years. They were in Division I from 99 to 2001. They went back-to-back years where they did not win a game.
Oh, my gosh.
They went 0-55 in 2 years.
Weren't they in the SEC at one point?
Way back in the day, I
Yeah,
think.
like a long
Did not know
long
that.
time ago. So those winless teams in D1 made the athletic department at Centenary kind of realize we probably need to take a step down. We need to change things. So they went to D3. And from 2013 to 2015, they went 0-48. So 2 years in a row, they went 0-24.
They
So
skipped D2, so we're just going straight
we're
to the
just going
bottom.
straight down to D3. We don't want to mess with D2, and it has not gone well for Centenary. So there are those winless teams. I'm pretty confident that Detroit Mercy is going to beat IUPUI.
Same.
We didn't put that in our lock of the week, but I thought about it. And then we have Mississippi. Honestly, I think Detroit Mercy wins this year. I think Mississippi Valley State could be in trouble. They're not. I've watched them. They're not good.
And for people who don't know, I can't even mention it, but Mike Davis is the coach at Detroit Mercy.
He sure
for you
is.
Hoosier fans out there.
He sure is indeed.
Don't bring him back, just Cream. I have a funny thing to talk about the winless teams. So there are 8 all-time D1 winless teams. Starting in 1917-18, it was Dartmouth. So it's Dartmouth, William & Mary, Baylor, the Citadel, Prairie View, Savannah State, NJIT, and Grambling.
Nice.
The funny thing when I was researching this is there's an article written on by CBS Sports. It was Matt Norlander. And when Grambling went winless, he decided to put at the end of the article, we were talking last week about why I love the small conferences because every team has a chance essentially to win it.
Yeah.
And he literally put at the end, well, Grambling could go into the conference tournament this week and win all 4 games and still make the NCAA tournament. So there's a perfect example. I believe they went 0-27. But when they were 0-26, they could have gone 10-26 and won the national championship.
They absolutely could have.
It's the best. It'd actually probably be 11-26. It'd probably be the playing game, too.
Oh, correct.
Oh, that's a good point. Great point, Nick. So we certainly hope that both Detroit Mercy and Mississippi Valley State get wins.
NJIT and Grambling all seem like kind of like, like either new or just always bad. Like Detroit Mercy's had success
I was going to say,
over the years.
Detroit Mercy has the second highest score in men's college basketball history.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing, too. I was looking at Mike
Antoine
Davis
Davis.
Jr.'s bio again because I was showing a friend at the wedding how they were winless, and we were talking about Mike Davis. And if you go look at Detroit Mercy's website, Mike Davis Jr., where it talks about coaching under his dad, it also talks about him being part of the resurgence of Detroit basketball.
Oh, no. Which, by the way, since we potted the Detroit Pistons,
Yeah, they have.
They are getting going, and it's all because
Yeah, the wrong Detroit team got the message.
the wrong Detroit team got They did. Jaden Ivey has been balling for the Pistons. So is Cade Cunningham. So
They're like a game behind the Wizards now. They're catching up.
they're flying up the boards
They're flying up
quickly.
the boards.
Can you believe it? All right. Question number 2, and now we are going to turn this personal.
Thank you, Haley, by the way, for
By
that
the way,
question.
thank you, Haley, for that wonderful question. She has definitely become a Detroit Mercy
Can she
fan.
hear us? Thank you, Haley.
She
She
did,
can hear us.
So that's my wife, and she did ask me the other day out of nowhere. I was talking about college basketball, and she said with a sad tone in her voice, she goes, Did Detroit win yesterday? So that's what spurred that question.
I love that. That's great. All right, question number 2. This is from my wife, Kelly, and this is for Nick. We were told in episode 1 that we'd get a weekly update of Nick's dating status, and we need that established. So, Nick, how are things going? Still single?
Well, as was changed from this Sunday, the last Sunday is nothing. Still
Nothing?
single.
Okay.
Valentine's Day is coming up on Wednesday. I usually go to Hooters. Here's the fun thing about Hooters on Valentine's Day. If you bring a picture of your ex, they'll shred it and you get free wings. That's
Are you serious?
That's a real thing Hooters does. Did
Did you know this?
I did.
I'm completely serious when I say that to people. So if you're bored on
At least the one in Castleton, Indiana. That is
the
true.
one in Lexington did it too. Not that one, no.
How many free wings do you get?
Like this standard, like 10
10?
wings. Yeah.
Robbie's about to shred his wedding picture for wings on Wednesday.
No, your ex. Not my current wife. I would never do that. She's
Well, they aren't exactly
the greatest person in the world.
PIs over there. You can pretty much you can probably give them a picture.
That's a good
of
point.
Mary Todd Lincoln. They'd probably give you free wings for it. So
Hold on. Of all the random women that you could have picked, you picked Mary Todd Lincoln as your
I was trying to think of
choice
the
there.
funniest name I could think of. Mary
That's
Todd
pretty
Lincoln.
funny. You got it. You nailed it. So
as far as that-
still single.
Yeah. And then last Saturday night, so I left this morning at 7 a.m. And all my buddies stayed out, and they had they met women last night. I did not, so that shows you how.
Nick
Are you
slept in a hotel
scared?
room with his
What?
father.
Are you scared?
Far from it, sir.
Well, then what's the problem?
Well,
Okay, I'll be honest. I'm gonna pump you up a little bit.
I
Here.
don't like this.
No, you're a good-looking guy.
Thanks.
You have great personality,
Thanks.
great sense of humor.
Thanks.
Stop interrupting me.
Thanks. Hyman Roth.
Remember that picture that I sent from you in St. Louis at the SEC tournament? That Nick obviously has no chance with women, but this Nick should. So I don't understand why. I don't get it.
Can we talk about the MEAC or something?
No, I can't. I don't understand. Go find a lovely lady. There's someone lucky out there that's out there for you.
Email the show. Tweet
Email the
us.
show
Yeah.
at d1anddonepod@gmail.com.
I am open for business. If any lady wants to,
We have women that listen to this pod.
talking to you, Kelly.
She's taken. You can't have her.
Also, fellas, don't be too cool for Valentine's Day. It's an easy excuse to go buy flowers or write a note. Wake up that morning and write a note to the girl that you either have a crush on or that you're dating or you're married to. Like, don't be too cool for it.
Literally, you only live once. Go have fun. Go do something. Be proactive.
I'm trying, Kelly. That's all I'm saying. Do you guys have any big?
You literally watch Kentucky. You should be on. You know how to play offense. Be on the offense. You're not defending anything. Go get someone.
Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I'm too focused on Calipari, not going to pick and roll. That I can't focus on the on the ladies in my life.
Surely there is a lady out there that's concerned about the pick and roll defense of Kentucky basketball.
If you are, please let me know.
If there is.
Especially if you have a fix, I'll like to hear that too.
That too. Absolutely. All right. So there's your viewer questions. Please make sure you get your questions in. It's d1anddonepod@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere that you may find your podcast or the show in general. All right, Dusty, I'm turning this over as we gather around the campfire and listen to another great story from Dusty's time playing college basketball as we wrap up episode 2. Dusty, I want to hear a great story that you may have from your playing days.
I have one more thing after he's done.
That's
Just
supposed to be
Super Bowl
off
pick.
record.
That's all.
Yeah, of course.
That's all I want to ask.
Yes.
Mine will be quick. So the story I thought of today was the rec center, Kentucky's campus called the Johnson Center. I assume it's still called that.
At least when I was there, it still was.
So when Gillespie coached us, obviously one rule that most coaches have is you're not allowed to do anything outside of actual practice in terms of playing basketball.
Right.
Well, everyone hated our practices. It wasn't fun. He made basketball not fun. And so one night, we decided to go to the Johnson Center and play open gym. So the 5 of us, it was me, the late Kerry Benson, RIP, he was one of my good friends. He unfortunately died in a car accident probably 8 or 9 years ago. Morquinho Williams, AJ Stewart, and Perry Stevenson. So the 5 of us went and played at the...
But let me preface this as well. Those aren't just like 5 like pushovers. Those are like you guys. Those are some legitimate men's basketball players.
I mean, if you take me, Kerry was 6'6", Morquinho was 7'2", AJ was, I think he's 6'9", and Perry's, 6'10", 6'11".
He was like a 3-year start at Kentucky, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say.
So these are legit. I mean, when we walked in, obviously, everyone walked around. So it was pretty cool. There's 4 courts, I believe, at the Johnson Center at the time. And when we walked in, literally they almost like Rucker Park. It was everyone just walked over, like all the other 3 courts quit playing, and they came and watched us. And we played probably 6 or 7 games, and as you can imagine, just smoked everyone.
Yeah.
And that was one of the few times where people actually got to see, like, I actually was really good at basketball. And obviously I played point guard with the 5 of us when we were playing. And that's back when, that was one of the first times I, pulled it from a half court and just drained a 3. And that's when you get good and people are like, okay, this isn't some bum story. Like, this guy actually knows how to hoop. The worst part about it, though, is at one point I went into the paint, went for a layup, and landed on a kid's ankle. Probably the worst ankle sprain of my life. It was so bad that my dorm, because they all lived at the Wildcat Lodge, my dorm was right next to the Johnson Center. Morquinho had to carry me, like I was a child, to my dorm. I could put no weight on my ankle at all. Like literally just putting my little toe on the ground, screaming in pain. So we get there, and my roommate, Kyle, at the time, who, again, was living his fancy because I was bringing all the players to our dorm all the time.
Yeah.
So he was a great roommate to me. And the problem was I had practice at 10 o'clock the next morning or 1 in the afternoon, whatever it was. I had practice the next day. And obviously I couldn't walk and be like, hey, I sprained my ankle playing at the Johnson Center. So all night, Kyle is running from, we lived in our dorm was 21 stories tall. We were on the 11th floor. and he was going up and down to the basement all night, refilling ice for me to make sure that I was like icing my ankle all night. Drove me to practice the next day. And I could not, like, I literally was hopping on one foot to get to the training room, and I told our trainer, his name was Eric Greg, I was like, Eric, I effed up yesterday. I cannot walk. You have to get my ankle, like, in playing form. He, like, quadruple wrapped my ankle. It was my right ankle. I can feel my ankle pulsing as I remember the story. And I went through a full 3.5 hour Division I practice on that ankle. Got done afterwards, went to Eric. He helped me with stuff, unwrapped it, and the thing was literally the size of, like, my shoulder. It was huge.
Did you ever think about, like, as practice started, like trying to, like, fake an injury as you were going through the practice to get away with it?
No, that's actually great. Yeah, I did not.
I always ask
that would have been my first thought. Be like, okay,
okay,
I gotta hide this somehow.
I think
5 minutes in, you're like,
Oh no, my ankle.
No, I maybe it was too. I think I was just afraid at the moment because I think of myself as pretty creative and prideful and just smart and to think about schemes that I did not even think about that.
You just let your toughness just take over, and you're just like, I gotta make sure I get through this.
Well, Robbie, maybe that's why he played D1 we didn't.
That's exactly the reason why.
You and me have been like,
I would have found a reason. Like, okay, what can I do to make this believable that I really just did get hurt?
Right. It's like Nick and I always joke about how we talk about like war back in the day, how they would, all run at each other with the swords and everything. Mm-hmm. And Nick and I would be like, just twist my ankle. You guys go ahead, we'll catch up.
I'll catch up with that later. I'm just gonna sit down right here.
So
great story.
The cool part of the story for me is the playing on a full-blown, probably third-degree sprain. But it was so cool the night before having all these students just wrapped around the gym and not even play. Like, people were standing there holding their basketball because they're like, okay, we can't play right now. We got to go watch these guys. And that was one of those times where, as bad way to phrase it, a normal college student watching how talented these guys actually are.
Yeah.
I mean, you play games of 15. Every game was like 15-1, 15-0, and it was just so much fun.
That's when people have the conversation of, if you get 10 minutes and go play an NBA game, how many points can you score?
Anyone who thinks
Zero.
they can score an NBA game, you guys are idiots.
I'm scoring 0 points. Now, there's a chance that you just stick me into a corner and you just leave me there, and I can somehow get up a couple shots and
if
maybe
anyone
score.
Gives a lick of a damn about it,
exactly,
you're not
scoring.
That's what's my thing. Like, if they're trying not to let you score, you will not score.
It will not happen.
If they lose you on it.
Yeah, or you
have
like a half-court shot and hit it. Yeah, but if they want to stop you, you're not going to score a damn point.
I agree.
The worst one that Philadelphia reporter one time said he could luck into a home run in MLB.
That one's okay. That's the worst.
There is no way.
No,
luck into a 96 mile per hour fastball.
Yeah, you have a better chance. You have a better chance of scoring in an NBA game than you do hitting a home run. There's like no way. Absolutely.
I'd be shocked if you get contact on the ball. Foul tip even.
I'm dropping a bunt just trying to get some contact.
I'd be scared to bunt. I mean, just. That ball comes so fast and people understand it.
96.
Do you ever, when you see people who have like, he has a grade 2 ankle sprain, and you're like, I played a whole 3-hour practice on this. This isn't a big deal. Do you ever see that and you're like, okay, toughen up. I did this in college.
Back in my day.
No, actually,
Yeah,
I'm actually going to be pretty conceited when I say this. The part that I actually get kind of like eye roll at is when people off at like Steph Curry hitting amazing shots. And I'm like, I was doing that all the time. I just obviously wasn't on a national landscape but I would go hoop and just pull up from everywhere all the time. So what he does not surprise me at all, especially when it's your job and you're getting paid to do millions.
Right.
I guess the injury part, it's hard to really make a connection to that because everyone handles pain differently.
Sure.
So yes,
look at us.
I think it's
the side of pain, and I'm
I think
done.
if the importance of the situation, I mean, if it's like you're dinged up, it's like, okay, well, at least rest this game and go play. I mean, it's like, well, Wagner's dealing with at Kentucky. We don't really know how much pain he's in, but it's like, okay, we'll rest this game and be ready for the next one. So, I've never really looked at an injury and be like, okay, you can play through that because we just don't know.
Right. That's fair. All right, that does it for episode 2 of the D1 and Done pod.
Real quick.
Yes.
Super Bowl picks.
Oh, yeah, Super Bowl picks. Sorry. You obviously will be listening to this after the Super Bowl, so we're basically making picks that you already know about.
It's no one's lock of the week?
No. I will say, I think Purdy and Mahomes both go over their rushing yard numbers that they have. I think Purdy's 11.5 and Mahomes is 25.5, maybe.
I love those.
I think they both go over the rushing yards.
One.
Yeah. I forgot to mention my 14 parlay I hit in college basketball yesterday.
We can skip past that. We're running a little long here.
No. We need to talk about this. All right, but while you guys are doing this, okay, last couple minutes of it, we'll talk betting, which, by the way, as always, please bet responsibly. But tonight, who's winning the Super Bowl?
I'm going to say Chiefs. Can't really pick against Mahomes at this point. My wife is happy that there's a Nickelodeon broadcast tonight, so feel free to tune in to that. For the Puppy Bowl. I'm
excited about the Puppy Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, did it get canceled?
No, I said I'm excited about the Puppy Bowl.
Sad about the Puppy Bowl.
No, I'm excited about the
Which
Puppy
reminder, this weekend is the birthdays of both Disney and Milo.
Woof, woof.
So with that said, my Super Bowl pick will be 24-16 Chiefs. And the Dolphins, I think, are playing the Chargers like in some random arena. So go Dolphins.
Ninth
Go
place
Dolphins.
game. Yeah.
Okay.
But,
Nick?
So went to Kentucky again this weekend and was around a bunch of Patriots. All my buddies from Boston for some reason. My Kentucky buddies. How weird is that? So they're all Patriots fans. It reinforced
Why are people from Boston going to
I don't know,
Kentucky?
isn't that so random? There's
That's
a ton
odd.
of them in my fraternity. Irregardless, all I heard about was the Brady and Belichick and all that the whole weekend. I was like, I need the Chiefs to win to knock them off. So I think the Chiefs are now, they're inevitable. Even when their offense isn't working, their defense is just good now. I love a low-scoring game. I think it's 2013 Chiefs.
Low scoring. Okay.
Take the under.
I'm going higher scoring. I think the defenses aren't going to be. I mean, maybe early on the defense has set the tone, but I was hovering on 35-31
Okay,
Chiefs.
so yeah,
I think
shootout.
we're going to get weird. My bets for the Super Bowl, I've got a four leg parlay. I've got Pacheco, McCaffrey, anytime touchdown scorers, and then as I mentioned, Brock Purdy over 12.5 rushing yards, Mahomes over 25.5 rushing yards. So I'm hoping both of those hit. But my 14 college basketball parlay that I hit over the weekend. Alabama LSU over 165 points. They got to 200 points, I think.
Bama almost got to 165 by themselves.
Yeah, they almost did. UConn minus 16.5 was easy money over Georgetown. Creighton minus 1.5 was easy money over Xavier. And then South Carolina, I had minus 11.5. They were down at halftime and went on a crazy run and ended up winning by 15, I think. So
It'd been so beautiful with
not
Vandy.
a bad little parlay. Yeah, Vandy's so bad. Gosh.
So bad.
Are we? Yeah, is Jerry Stackhouse going to be at Vanderbilt next year? Are we?
This is year 5. I don't know how you bring him back. Is gone and only worse.
It's not going to get any better. I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, his biggest claim is having Pippen's son, and he's gone obviously in the NBA now. So I don't understand.
So
how
if you're going to bring Tom Crean back to IU, bring Riley LeChance back to Vanderbilt.
Yes.
I don't know what he's doing right now. I don't even know if he can coach, but I don't really care. Bring back Riley LeChance to Vanderbilt. Do it now.
Great call.
Right. Absolutely.
Real quick, he's 67-86 at Vanderbilt. 19 games over 500.
And speaking of bringing Vandy people back, who is their longtime head coach?
Kevin Stallings.
Stallings, I once saw on an elevator at the SEC tournament after a loss, and literally was like ripping his toupee off on the elevator. Shout out, Kevin.
He's a toupee?
Hair was coming off, I can tell you that much.
Wow.
Brian Mills can attest to this.
Good to know. Does Bill Self have a toupee?
That's what I've heard he does.
Okay.
Apparently, there's certain pictures you can tell very.
It felt like he did. All right, that does it. There's your Super Bowl picks. We hope you enjoy the game tonight. We hope you enjoy the games going forward. Nick Mills, Dusty Mills, Robbie Donahoe, Episode 2, D1 and Done Pod in the books. We will see you next Sunday for Episode 3. The trilogy ends on a high note, and hopefully Nick doesn't lose it on his lock of the week. Let's hope not.
Happy birthday, Milo.
I'm a man of faith.
He's a man of faith. See you guys next Sunday.